Another brick fan here with a Marvel Avengers set. This is the Avengers Helicarrier. This is set 76153, was released in July 2020, has 1,244 pieces, 7 minifigures as well as a brick-built figure, and cost about $120 when it was released. This is a nice big build of an Avengers Helicarrier, or Shield Helicarrier, but it's not nearly as detailed or as large as the 2000 version set, which is kind of a UCS type build. That is set 76042. You can see the picture up here on the screen. Of course, that was designed as a micro scale version, so you really couldn't put minifigures inside. And although a lot of the space, the interior space of this vehicle, is taken up by like a gearing mechanism, which I'll show you here in a few minutes, it does still fit 3 minifigures, and there's a spot in the back for Modoc. We'll take a close look at all the minifigures in a minute, but let's go ahead and take a look at the Helicarrier itself. As you can see, it's a fairly good size representation of the Helicarrier. Of course, on top it has a Quinjet, and this is designed to fit 1 minifigure. So the roof here just pops off, and then you can drop a minifigure in here, and they're designed to fly it kind of in a leaned back position. So you can see Black Widow here in the Quinjet. It's, like I said, not super detailed, but you get the idea that it's a Quinjet. Nice jet here in the back. The wings are on these friction hinges, so you can kind of adjust them a little bit to make them stay at the right angles. And then there's, of course, a 6-stud shooter here in the front as a play feature. So that's a good addition. And then these discs here, we've seen in several Avengers sets, and these are a printed element as well. Looking to the Helicarrier itself, I think it looks really good. The profile of it is nice. There's a lot of these trans pieces, so the trans orange for kind of landing lights. There's some trans yellow in the front for more kinds of lights. There are these Technic pins here on ball joints so that they can aim a weapon in many different directions. And there's one on each side of the main cockpit you can see here. There's also one of these large spring-loaded shooters that can be angled 360 degrees as well as be moved, so it can aim in lots of different directions. There are 4 of these fans, and they are kind of on a Technic pin or rod type work, so they can move a little bit from side to side, so you can angle them just a little bit. Each of the fans also has one of these big Avengers panels on it. And if you move the Helicarrier, you can see that the fans move because it's all geared inside, which we'll try and give you a quick look at. Nice detailing around the outside here. There's another one of these little fan pieces. A couple of Technic pieces that you can see here as well. Then moving around to the back. Couple of things here. This is kind of a holding cell here in the back. So there's these that move over that lock it in place. But you can see some of the gearing here that runs the fans. And this holding cell right here is conveniently the right size to fit Modoc inside. Of course, you should remove his weapons from him there. And then that closes down like this, and then these move over to hold it shut. Also on top here is a radar dish, which you may have seen looking at the other end there. So that does move side to side a little bit, and then is on a hinge to move up and down slightly as well. There are some of these grid pieces here, and if you look in there closely, you can see some of the Technic in different colors, in the reds and yellows and whites. And you can see some of the gearing and other things in there as well. Moving up to the front here, There's another Avengers logo here. It's done with a sticker. And then this opens up right here. And you can see there's a trans piece here to represent probably a light of some kind. And then if you look inside, there is actually 3 minifigure seats. So you can actually fit minifigures inside. So if we wanted to take Nick Fury, for example, now this is probably a lot easier for kids than it is for me. The smaller the hands you have, the easier it will be to get those figures in and out of this area. But they will fit in any of those 3 chairs that are inside of this main cockpit area. And you can also see that there is a coffee cup inside. So after a little finagling, you might be able to see Nick Fury right inside of the cockpit area. The gearing mechanism actually works pretty smoothly. As you can see, you can notice those fans running. So if you look on the bottom, there is a bunch of these little wheels that help it move. And then this is the gear, the main wheel that turns all of the 4 propellers. Looking closely down in here, you can see some of the gearing that is done to make the propellers move. And they're all 4 connected to each other. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the minifigures. As I mentioned in the opening, this set has 7 minifigures and 1 brick-built figure. So the minifigures include Nick Fury, Thor, Black Widow, Captain Marvel, War Machine, Iron Man, and an AIM agent. And then the brick-built figure is Modoc. We're going to start with War Machine and Captain Marvel. So this is a good-looking War Machine. As you can see, both of them have all of this nice trans orange accessories. So they have the flames coming out for indicating that they're flying. So in the case of War Machine, it's from his thrusters, and from Captain Marvel, it's just her natural ability, of course. I think it's a good use of these different pieces. You can also see that War Machine has a pretty complicated set of accessories there on his backpack. So it looks like over his right shoulder he has a stud shooter, and on his left shoulder it looks like a multiple rocket launcher, which is actually built out of roller skate pieces. So a really good use of those pieces. I do like this helmet piece for Captain Marvel with her hair and a mohawk coming out of it. She does come with a hair piece as well. So we'll go ahead and pull all these accessories off and take a closer look at these minifigures themselves. Here's a close-up view of the 2 minifigures. You can see War Machine's in his black with a bunch of silver printing. So a pretty standard Iron Man type helmet here with the silver, some red around the eyes, and then a black helmet around the outside. All of his detailing is done in silver with the exception of that little red and white piece there in the middle. And I think they did a good job of getting that white there instead of it bleeding through with the black. Not always done that way. Captain Marvel looks really good in the red, blue, and gold. So once again, this helmet's really nice helmet piece. We have her uniform here with a big star there. Looks like a sash around her waist that matches up pretty well with the leg printing as it goes down. War Machine, of course, as I pointed out, has all these little accessories on his back. These tiles here are printed down below with that little red stripe. So as we move around, there's no side printing. But you can see all the different thruster elements here for War Machine. And you see that rocket launcher, as I mentioned, is built out of roller skate pieces, which I thought, again, is a very creative use of that. Let's go ahead and get that backpack out of the way on War Machine. Looking at the backs, you see the nice continuation of the printing for War Machine here. And Carol's got, again, the work on the back of her. Here is the expression for both of these. And as I mentioned, Captain Marvel, or Carol Danvers here, comes with a hair piece. So there that is. There is no hair piece for a War Machine. As we go around the figures, looking back at the other side, you can see Carol has that bigger smile here on her face. And then for War Machine, you see that he has that heads up display there in red. You see Tony with this same kind of printing in blue. It's interesting to note that the white here on the helmet for Captain Marvel are included in the helmet. Let's move on to our next two minifigures. Next up we have Black Widow, or Natasha Romanov, and Nick Fury. Natasha's using a different kind of weapon in this set. She normally just comes with the lightsaber pieces, or the basically trans bars. But in this case, they have changed it up and built and have this brick-built weapon. So it looks kind of like a lightsaber hilt here with a stud, and this is a wand from like the Harry Potter series. So it makes for a nice, interesting little weapon. Nick Fury is using a gray pistol piece here, as you can see. Printing on Black Widow is quite good. You can sort of see a little bit of the side printing. We'll get a better look at that. Her normal kind of orange hair for the red hair look, and then nice silver printing, again matching up quite well on the legs. Nick Fury here with his shield logo here on his jacket. I think they did a good job of getting that gray printing there in the center on this black figure, and then of course some of the other silver printing. Good look for his face with the eye patch. Here's a better look at that side printing. So there's like a shoulder pauldron or a shoulder piece of armor there, and then this looks like that wrist weapon she uses. Moving around to the back, I do appreciate that they printed the strap for the eye patch here on the back of Nick Fury. And then of course we have I don't know, I would kind of say that's kind of a snarling type expression here on Black Widow. Here's the rest of the printing on her back, which is consistent with the torso printing. And then Nick has just a little bit of detailing on the back of his jacket here. Let's move on to our next two minifigures. Next up we have Iron Man and Thor. So Iron Man here they didn't give an actual mark number for the armor that he's wearing. But this one I've seen quite a bit in the 2020 Marvel sets. He of course has one of these blue power pieces that fires off of his hand as kind of an action feature. Thor has his hammer, Mjolnir, and then he is in his full armor. So I like how they use this metallic darker gray kind of as the base color, and then there's some silver and blue and gold there around. He has this softer cape material. If you do look closely, you'll notice that his mustache and beard sideburns are not the same color as his hair. His hair is a lighter blonde, and these are more of a reddish brown color. Tony here has the heads-up display overlay printed over his face, which is fairly common in these Iron Man figures. Moving around the side, there's no side printing on either one of these, but you can see some good back printing on both, which is very nice. A little bit of the red printing there to indicate the cape. Tony does have an alternate expression there without the heads-up display. Thor is kind of in his powered-up pose with the glowing eyes here, which you see when he's getting ready to summon lightning. Again, no printing on either side. The last minifigure is this AIM agent. And these AIM agents are all pretty much the same base. So you'll have a kind of that metallic dark gray with the torso with a nice print. There's a little AIM logo in the middle there. And then there's the yellow arms. They have the head with the goggles on them. Let's see if we can the helmet out of the way. So there's the goggles, and then they have kind of a gray piece here, and then they have this breathing, kind of a respirator or filter that they wear. But the difference comes in what the accessories that come with them. So we have this stud shooter here with a couple extra. We have this stud shooter here with a couple extra pieces. So there's one of these 1x2 rounded plates here. And then we have these grenade pieces that are attached to a stud so that it'll go out through the stud shooter. This guy also has a backpack piece with some ball joints that allow him to have these kind of hover wings or glider wings. They have these fans on them, kind of move around to the back here, and you see they have the little grenade pieces here, and they can be positioned lots of different ways because of this backpack piece that he's wearing that holds these rounded ends to allow for these ball joints to work. Let's take a look at Modoc now. So Modoc is done quite nicely with this nice face print here, which looks suitably maniacal. A couple of these are little minifigure arms that have Technic pins that connect into these 1x1s here. A couple of stickers for some additional kind of components or electronics that help run him. And then he has these stud shooters on either side here with the grenades, kind of like the aim agent we just looked at. And then his legs are done quite nicely here with a 1x1. This is kind of the sloped piece with a 1x2 jumper plate on the bottom. Looking around the figure, you see that he's using an awful lot of this pearl gold coloring around the sides, different slopes, tiles, and some grill pieces here. Some more of those slope tiles here in the back for texturing, and then around this side is just built up the same way as the other side. I think this turned out really nicely. I like the way it looks and is a good representation, I think, of Modoc as a villain. Let's go back and I'll give you my final thoughts on the set. Overall, I think this is a really good looking set. I do like the selection of minifigures. You get essentially 5 Avengers in this set. And then Nick Fury, of course, as the leader, which makes a lot of sense for him to be in a helicarrier. The AIM agent has a nice helicopter style or hover style backpack. And then the Modoc brick built figure looks really good, as I mentioned while we were taking a look at the minifigures. I think it is a very good play piece. So the ship is extremely solid. And then driving along the floor or along a tabletop will make the fans spin, which I think is a nice little action feature as well. Having the little Quinjet here is good. It has stud shooters on it. And of course, there's a stud shooter here for the AIM agent. War Machine has a stud shooter, and Modoc also has a couple of stud shooters. Not to mention these little power firing pieces that come for Iron Man as well. So lots of different play features. And I did forget the large spring shooter as well. So plenty of play features along with this ship, which is really nice. So it makes for a solid play set. The $120 if you start with the 10 cent per piece ratio, which is where I usually start, it does fit right in that with 1,244 pieces for $120. The 7 minifigures and then the Modoc build add more value in my opinion. So not only does it look good as a big display piece, but it is also a really great play piece. So I think there's a lot of value in here. Granted, $100 is not something everybody, these Lego sets that cost more than $100 aren't generally bought for small kids, but it is definitely something that can be appreciated by many LEGO fans of all ages. Hope you've enjoyed my thoughts on this set. I'm going to get going on my next video, and until then, happy building. If you enjoyed this review, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to my channel to see more of my content. I've left a link to my Marvel Superheroes playlist up here on the screen.